Gotta turn that off. Things should be up and running at the moment. Hopefully my stream doesn't do weird stuff. Oh right, yeah, compiling shaders. I completely forgot about this. This is gonna be a bit, so we're just gonna be sitting here doing nothing. I'm just gonna set up the live announcement and take this time as an advantage state. Waiting on compiling shaders. Always the fun part. It's gonna be completely absent of music. That's the worst part, by the way. The fact that there's like nothing that plays in the background with this. Well, like I said, this is actually a pretty good time for me to look around, make sure that everything's working as intended and such. Sound check, sound check. Hoping Tura is there or someone to fully tell me if the sound check is good. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 1, 2. Yep. Okay, you can hear me, so sound seems to be relatively well. Again, this compiling shaders thing takes a while. I completely forgot about this part. Normally, I would have waited to start the stream until after it was done compiling, but again, like I said, I forgot. So, well, shit. So we just get to sit here and be very, very awkward. Yep, big ol' whoops. Do, 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 do. As you can see, yep, it's as one of my other friends put it, one of the worst parts about Stalker 2. It's a fantastic game. Compiling shaders. Because it takes so freaking long. Oh, look at that load bar. Look at it. It's nuts. Hello, Dura. Glad you could finally make it. Would you love to sit here and compile shaders with me? Because that seems to be all it's going. It's like, please wait. Yep, I'm waiting. Although saying please implies that I have a choice. If I did have a choice, I'd play this game while it looks like shit, while the shaders compiled while I was playing it. Like, I'd be fine with that. But I'll be honest, I don't think most games work like that. Because some shaders are actually pretty essential for game design and stuff like that. So, like, you wouldn't really be able to always play it while it's all streaming in. At least I think that's how it is. Because I know that shaders are responsible for a lot of visuals. Shaders are responsible for a ton of things. Like, shaders that people usually install in like Final Fantasy or something like that. They're kind of like that, but there is other stuff that they do as well. Like, most games are actually utilizing shaders. They're not like sitting there and just kind of showing you as it's supposed to look without quote unquote shaders on. One of the better examples of this actually would be Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. The game looks completely different if you turn off a lot of the shaders that it's doing. Then there's also a back with Deus Ex Human Revolution, there's the yellow shader that happens a lot of the time as well in that game. So there's obviously many, many mods, and even I think the Director's Edition actually allows you to just turn that off if you want to. But like shaders can be as little as just a yellow tint, but they can even be other things, like lighting is also able to be handled a lot by shaders. And when it comes to those shaders, some of those shaders are actually stuff that can't really be so easily spoofed by like a plugin or something like that. Sometimes those shaders are stuff that's a bit more hard built into the foundation of the game itself. This is why, say, with Final Fantasy's Dawn Trail update, lighting got kind of a bit of an overhaul in a way that shaders are basically incapable of replicating in the way that it's done it. And in fact has caused all shaders to have like a slight difference to them because now they're working off of a different lighting engine and stuff like that. So shaders mean a lot more than just like, oh, a fancy little overlay on the screen, basically. Because they could be like really foundational stuff. And as you can see, 5 minutes in, nearly 6. Nope, now we're at 6. Still compiling shaders. So as I said before, like, yeah, this game takes forever to compile shaders. Like, we're gonna probably be here a decent bit. I guess I could actually use that time to look up stuff as well, actually. Like, hold on. Why does a game take forever to compile? Because I'm curious. A game takes a long time to compile shaders. Yeah. A game takes a long time to compile shaders on startup because this process is computationally intensive, requiring the CPU to translate complex shader code into a format that the graphics card can understand on the fly, which can be time-consuming, especially when dealing with a large number of shaders and variations in a modern game. Essentially, it's like the game learning how to render graphics specifically for your hardware on the run. Ah, so what's going on here? Now, that was a terrible description. Oh, Roadside Picnic is the book that they're based on. But basically, relatively after Chernobyl, like the Chernobyl explosion, in this universe, there was a place created called the Zone. In the Zone, there's these things called anomalies and all that stuff, and there's quite a few people that are trapped in it. There's military that are keeping people from going into it, but inside of these anomalies, which are, and when they are considered anomalies, they can be anything from spatial to, well, there are just a ton of different spatial anomalies, gravitational anomalies, like acidic anomalies, stuff like that, like where things just aren't working. Like if you tried to fly a plane through it, you would probably get completely screwed. Same with a helicopter, because you'd probably get hit by a gravitational anomaly midair, and it would just be ending it. They have fun names like whirligig, which is a thing that takes something, violently sucks it in, spins it around as it flings it up into the sky before then imploding it. So, not exactly something you want to be in, especially in a helicopter, to put it mildly. But all these anomalies were created, but now there's artifacts in them as well. These artifacts actually do beneficial things. They do these weird, unnatural things that are actually quite significant. These can include stuff like just being more resistant to certain stuff, even bullets, to outright being able to close wounds, to heal them, stuff like that. So obviously in the medical sector, they're particularly loved. That being said, artifacts are a little bit dangerous to get because they're always in anomaly fields. So then the S.T.A.L.K.E.R were made. S.T.A.L.K.E.R are stand for it's actually an acronym. It's S.T.A.L.K.E.R if you actually want to be more accurate to the game's name. Let me just figure out, like, because I can't remember exactly what what each letter stands for. Yeah. S.T.A.L.K.E.R stands for Scavengers, Trespassers, Adventurers, Loners, Killers, Explorers, and Robbers. And that is basically describing many of the people that are in the zone that are not scientists or military. Many stalkers are even hired by scientists as like mercenaries, basically, to protect them as well. They tend to know, like, stalkers know the most about the zone and everything, though technically you don't have to know much about the zone to be a stalker. You just need to not be there necessarily in the most legal tenses. or even by accident there. Just don't be military and don't be a scientist, and congratulations, you're part of the Stalkers. Like, again, it covers everything: scavengers, trespassers, adventurers, loners, killers, explorers, and robbers. Loners aren't actually considered a faction, mind, but that's just kind of like the whole free ones. Then there's obviously the bandits, which are the robbers and killers and stuff. There's all sorts of stuff with it, but many people tend to not have very good reason or have very good reason to get to the zone. But in most cases, once you're in the zone, the military is there to stop you from getting out of the zone. This has not stopped artifacts from getting out of the zone, but it's kind of stymied it. But basically, just Chernobyl caused a giant fucking blast that made space in its immediate vicinity and a decent ways away from its vicinity just completely fucky. There's other stories within the zone, like Project X. I believe it's Project X is the name of it, as well as many other things like the Brain Scorcher, but that's back in Stalker 1. And each of these Stalker games actually happen kind of sequentially, like the first Stalker game, the second Stalker game, and the third Stalker game. Which you might question, well, this is Stalker 2. Where's Stalker 3? There is no Stalker 3. The first 3 Stalker games don't have a number. Call of Chernobyl, Clear Sky, and I said Call of Chernobyl, Jesus Christ. Call of Pripyat, Clear Sky, and Shadows of Chernobyl. Oops. But all 3 of those end up happening in their own way. The very first one is technically the most significant to the zone itself and how it has been formed to a degree. Because Project X and the Brain Scorcher is, like, in that game, how you start out with is you're trying to, like, you wake up, you have amnesia, you wake up after an emission, which is a big fucking deal. Emissions are really not something you tend to survive very often. And, you kind of wake up, and all you can see on your phone is to kill Strelok. And you go through all of that, and spoiler alert, after a large amount of going here and there trying to track down Strelok, you discover that you're Strelok. Now, instead of following the directions on the phone and immediately killing Strelok, that's when you actually start to go back into the center of the zone as well, which a lot of people don't do because there's the Brain Scorcher, which causes a lot of problems. And there's a reason it's called the Brain Scorcher. It causes these people to literally have their brains effectively fried. They either turn into zombies, which are kind of different in this universe. They're not like necessarily the type that eats your flesh and stuff like that. They're more mostly brain dead individuals, which means they can still use guns, albeit very badly. um, so they are still relatively dangerous, but the more dangerous thing that happened, also, Jesus Christ, this is taking quite a while, isn't it? But the more dangerous thing that could happen is they were turned into monolithians. Monolithians are actually basically brain scorched as well. They actually become immune to the emissions, in fact, because of it. But the monolithians were effectively turning people into what is a cult who worship the monolith. And the monolith is what is called the Wish Granter, which is what everybody was always fantasizing and theorizing was at the center of the zone. Like, if you could get there, you could get whatever you wanted, done. And it's not the first load. It's still running. You could see something moving on the bottom. That means that it's not crashed. So it'll be fine. But the monolithians are basically manipulated into being in that cult. They worship the monolith, the Wish Granter, effectively. And these guys are straight up indoctrinated, and they protect it, and they murder so many fucking people. It's crazy. It's ridiculous. They absolutely have murdered people. They go out and they actually murder people well beyond the center of the zone. They aren't just protecting it, they're aggressively attacking it, basically. However, once you get to the center of the zone, if you've completed everything that you needed to do so that Strelok doesn't try to make a wish at the Wish Granter, which almost absolutely turns against him, by the way, you discover that it's all ran by Project X, which is effectively a bunch of scientists in a tube who are doing a lot, that are kind of controlling the zone and everything. And Yeah, they weren't so good, and the canon ending to that is that Strelok immediately picks up their AK-47 and just unloads into all the tubes, killing all of them, and also effectively breaking the Wish Granter. This actually did make it so that the Monolithians were no longer under Monolith control. However, this has also caused a class divide, which is something that is prevalent in all the three subsequent games. Monolithians aren't necessarily always bad people. They can be bad people, but they aren't always bad people. The problem is that they've completely forgotten who they were before they got brainwashed in the first place, and now without the monolith, they're either basically wandering around aimlessly and not really knowing what to do, which can make them very dangerous, or desperately trying to figure out a way to not effectively be stigmatized against. Most monolithians aren't actually even identifying themselves as such and are basically just saying that they're stalkers in order to get by and not get immediately shot, because, once again, everybody doesn't exactly take the whole understanding of, oh, I was brainwashed too well, or more specifically, that the monolith is dead, because these monolithians were basically actively murdering them. So nobody really likes them in most cases. And again, this is throughout everything. The reason I'm mentioning this part is because this is actually quite prevalent in Stalker 2. You get a little bit of a hint of it at the beginning, where there's a monolithian that's actually trying to heal someone, and everybody else is literally thinking that they kidnapped this person that was injured instead. And there's like all this like voodoo stuff, like they think that the monolithian also caused everything to start flying and throw it, except for there was actually a poltergeist in the room that they shot and killed. It wasn't the monolithian at all, because that's not something that monolithians do. Like, there's a very large stigma against them, and a lot of mysticism voodoo bullshit, basically. And the reason I'm saying this is because we're, like, once I can actually load into this game, which I might actually be restarting it soon. In fact, I'm actually going to do that real quick. I'll be right back. There we go. You should be able to hear me again at least. Oh shit. Whoa. That was weird. I'm checking to see if it's the same headset issue that's been cropping up over and over and over and over and over again. Um, so, you know, they'll have the game launched soon again. We'll see. Hopefully something happens. But yeah, so we're about to enter a cutscene because this new science group that has actually been able to artificially make artifacts within the zone's confines, which is actually a huge deal, by the way, because otherwise only anomalies can generate them, is trying to use the Wish Granter so that they can actually unlock the secrets of the zone, a old, busted version, effectively, of the Wish Granter. And, yeah, also that loading bar definitely seems like it's going a little bit further, but I'm not certain. So maybe it was the plugin. That is a weird bug with my headset, by the way. Yeah, it actually seems like it's doing something this time. Because, like, it's trying. Like, it's not fully rotating, but it is trying to get shit done, so that's nice. Maybe it was that plugin headset problem. I really need to figure out what the hell's causing that. Anyway, so they wanted to use the Wish Granter and to get to it, but they didn't want to use the Wish Granter to like make a new Monolithian. They had no intention of doing that. But the problem is that the Wish Granter was effectively making that monolith force on its own. So I already know necessarily what happens in the cutscene, though I did stop last time I was actually streaming because there was no sound in the cutscene, and I'm hoping there will be sound in the cutscene now, so I can actually experience it. I've sided with the scientists. You can actually side with the Monolithians, like the old Monolithians, and try to destroy it. Both result in the same thing happening, just in a different way, necessarily. Um, and there's going to be a bit of a heartfelt scene, so if you're particularly against people trying to aim a gun at themselves, uh, a warning on that one, though I will say that they don't pull the trigger. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. Bit more nuanced though. But because I can actually explain that a lot more in depth after the cutscene. But basically, the entire reason as to why this character is in the zone is because they found an anomalous like artifact that crashed into their house and broke their house down. So their initial idea was to go back into the zone to charge the artifact again, because artifacts outside of the zone actually eventually diminish. And yeah, their entire idea was to go back into the zone so that they could get money because they just had their entire house destroyed. So they kind of need money. um, so, and they've kind of gotten wrapped up in all of this because that little artifact that crashed into them was actually the key artifact for the scientists here to actually use to actually start trying to do this connection thing that they wanted to do back and more towards the center of the zone by using the wish grancher to basically jerry-rig jump to it. So, and yeah, that's definitely was my thing. Maybe it's the shaders that's causing the issue on the headset. Anyway, so I've basically been having my leg pulled all across the place and having to even refind the actual artifact as well because it was taken from me. It was in fact stolen. Yeah. So a lot of that stuff happened. Now let's see. I think this quick save is the one that we want to do. But yeah, there's like many anomalies. There's also many creatures. This isn't just a human-on-human conflict. It wasn't just spatial anomalies that happen. There's also these creatures like bloodsuckers, pseudo dogs, even regular dogs. Well, not fully regular. They're called blind dogs actually, because they don't have eyes. And you got the hogs. They're the pigs or whatever the hell they're called. I don't really know what all of them are called. You've also got snorks. Snorks are fun. Not really, but they're certainly a thing. So let me see if this is right before everything happened. Yeah, this is. Hey, that's why everything looks clean here. Because normally, everything in the zone doesn't look clean. Also, I can throw bolts. What's the point of throwing bolts? Well, you have an infinite number of them, by the way. That's why I'm just throwing them. And you can use them to set off anomalies as well. Very useful. But then there is, I'm trying to find the detector button. There it is. This detector, that helps a lot with finding the anomalies. Also, I'm doing really terrible at doing this. And it helps with finding the anomalies. So it's pretty helpful.
Who's that? Huh?
Are you fucking kidding me? Really, internet? Really? Was things actually getting broken up in the stream, by the way? Right there? I kind of like jumped off the game real quick because you can't cancel the thing. Yeah, like I'm not even getting a stream right now. But yeah, it's saying drop frames.